with Dan Runday's efforts to focus on the economic and development opportunities and challenges in Pakistan, and how the U.S. can help Pakistan move towards a more stable, prosperous, and interconnected future. I've been traveling in and out of Pakistan for almost 50 years. I've always argued that Pakistan is a country of consequence for the U.S. and the region, despite its many challenges. It has 240 million people, the majority of whom are under 30. Many speak English. They are entrepreneurial and they are resilient. Pakistan has abundant natural resources, including huge potential for green energy in hydro, wind, and solar. It has rich agricultural lands and ample deposits of critical minerals. Its location has made it a key partner to the U.S. in confrontations with Russia and al-Qaeda in neighboring Afghanistan. It borders China, the U.S.'s main competitor. It could serve as a natural bridge between Europe and Asia. Pakistan's professional and disciplined army is among the 10 largest in the world. Its successful diaspora population here is growing in influence in U.S. political circles. And of course, it's turned itself into a nuclear weapon state, despite our best efforts to discourage that outcome. I first went to Pakistan in 1975, driving from Europe across a peaceful and tourist-friendly Afghanistan and over the Khyber Pass into Islamabad. I worked in the USAID mission there. When donors were building the Tarbela Dam, Pakistan was self-sufficient in wheat, thanks in part to the American Nobel laureate Norman Borlaug and his work on the Green Revolution. Family planning was in fashion. The Planning Commission took 5-year plans seriously. Pakistan's per capita income was higher than India's, and there was a sense of optimism about Pakistan's economic future. The population was a mere 60 million, 1/4 of what it is today. Pressures on the environment weren't felt very strongly. The big topic of the day was waterlogging and salinity from poorly lined irrigation canals. Security was not an issue. Foreigners were free to travel the length and breadth of this spectacularly beautiful country, which I did with great enthusiasm. But things are much different today. Pakistan has the lowest per capita income in the region, except for Nepal and Afghanistan, and is deeply in debt. Income distribution is seriously skewed. Export industries are not competitive. Years of war in Afghanistan have brought refugees, guns, and Islamic insurgents like the TTP, which are again organizing regular attacks on Pakistan's periphery. Population pressures exacerbate climate challenges, and the stagnant economy does not provide enough jobs for young people. So all in all, it's a bit of a discouraging time. But one thing that has not changed in Pakistan is the tendency towards tempestuous politics. In the 1970s, when I was there, General Zia staged a coup and put the Prime Minister, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, in jail. Today, the elephant in the room is the recent Pakistan election of February 8th, about which already much has been said, both in Washington and in Pakistan. I know that the U.S. is watching this closely and wants to support Pakistan's journey towards a healthy democracy. Some of the results of this election are still being contested, but coalition building in the Pakistan tradition of a parliamentary system is well underway. We all must be patient while legal battles play themselves out, just as Americans had to be patient in the 2000 election between George Bush and Al Gore, which, as you'll recall, took a few weeks to sort out. But regardless of the outcome of the election, Pakistan will remain a country of consequence, which the U.S. should strive to understand and cultivate as a strong partner. And the new government will need to get on with the urgent issues of restructuring the debt, broadening the tax base, attracting crucial investment to help secure the next IMF deal. This is what the ambassador and Dan Runday are here to discuss. But first, let me ask Ambassador Khan up to the podium to give some opening remarks, which will be followed by discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Daniel Runde, Senior Vice President of CSIS, Ambassador Robin Rafel, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you so much, Ambassador Rafel, for your statement. It's a good preface for my remarks, as a matter of fact. And as I said a short while ago, you've been a goodwill ambassador between Pakistan and the United States for decades. And we appreciate your commitment to this relationship. Thank you so much, Mr. Runde, for hosting this event and centering our conversation on the prospects for Pakistan's economic development. I recall in 2015, you contributed a seminal piece in Forbes arguing that Pakistan had the potential to be a global turnaround story and advised United States policymakers and business leaders to look at Pakistan beyond the security lens. You identified planning and action around trade and investment, education, and broader economic progress. You had recommended that the United States ought to be Pakistan's preferred partner. You were right then, and your counsel is sound today. Over the past 2 years, Pakistan and the United States have consciously fostered congruence in their relations, and we would continue to build on this new threshold. Pakistan, I assure you, will have a bright future despite our present challenges. Pakistan is the 24th largest economy measured by purchasing power parity. It is the 5th most populous country with a population of 240 million, 64% of whom are below the age of 30, 60% of them are working age, and 42% in the middle class, according to the United Nations Development Program. We are bilingual, and we have 190 million mobile telephone and 130 million broadband subscribers. The nation is tech savvy, and the economy is digitizing fast. Our priorities are to create wealth, enhance the quantity and quality of human capital, upgrade manufacturing, modernize agriculture, switch to export-led growth, prepare for the climate change, eradicate poverty, make our products competitive, and brand Pakistan as an economic and trade hub. Pakistan is no island. No country is an island. And Pakistan, in fact, sits at the heart of the economic ecosystem of West Asia, extending from Central Asia to the Middle East to North Africa. We invite our friends to leverage our unique economic geography. As I speak, structural economic reforms are already taking place. They are underway. We have decided to turn a series of recent challenges, the pandemic, the floods, and post-Ukraine supply chain disruptions, into opportunity to implement a broad range of economic and human development reforms. The World Bank's proposed reforms for a brighter future initiative, Time to Decide, released in December last year, would neatly fit into this paradigm. The brighter future reforms are pathways for rapid growth in human capital, sustainability in public finances, competitive and outward-oriented private sector, realizing Pakistan's agri-food potential, energy sector sustainability, and strengthening institutions for effective reform implementation. To accomplish economic reforms, we have national consensus to streamline and eliminate non-targeted subsidies, expand tax base, trim non-performing state-owned enterprises, pare back market distortions, and increase government support for the marginalized segments of society. All these reforms are designed to address fiscal and external deficits and rev up our growth engines. Pakistan has a hospitable foreign direct investment regime, and we seek investment in infrastructure development, energy, agribusiness, industry, and ICT. Despite a demanding macroeconomic environment in the past 2 years, foreign businesses including of the United States, did not scale back. Instead, we saw new capital investments from Canada, the Gulf region, and China. The United States is a big investor in Pakistan, where 80 American enterprises, most of them Fortune 500, are profitably running their businesses. These include food products, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, agriculture, and financial services. The US private sector is also investing in ICT and alternate energy, and in the near future, its share in solar and wind power generation will grow. The United States is the largest single country export destination for Pakistan, and last year we had a trade surplus of $6 billion in our favor. In February 2023, Pakistan and the United States successfully held the 9th ministerial meeting under the United States-Pakistan Trade and Investment Framework Agreement after a gap of 7 years. Pakistan's strong diaspora in the United States, estimated at 1 million, builds bridges between Pakistan and the United States and is becoming a leader in channeling United States investments to Pakistan. Besides, in the last fiscal year, our US-based diaspora's investments and, in fact, remittances were $3 billion, the same as in the previous year. To answer your question as to what are the most promising sectors, I would start with the tech sector, which has witnessed a brisk pace in the past 4 years. A small $10 million venture capital funding has soared to $4 billion. E-commerce earned $6 billion last year. Tech startups covering fintech, health tech, edtech, retail, real estate, and transportation are transforming Pakistan's economic landscape. This is just the beginning. New technologies, AI, robotics, blockchain, synthetic biology, you name it, they're being taught in Pakistani colleges and universities and are being assimilated by industry. Venture capital firms from the United States, Europe, the Gulf, China, and Southeast Asia are financing these startups because they see Pakistan is the next digital hub, which even now has 30,000 IT firms and 75,000 IT graduates are joining workforce every year. We are training additional 200,000 IT experts to meet the growing demand of the market. We may well surprise everybody with trained semiconductor experts soon. Other areas of direct interest to American investors would be energy, agriculture, and critical minerals. About critical minerals, I would say that Pakistan is sitting on a treasure trove of minerals, and they include copper, gold, cobalt, lithium, rare earths, manganese, all for which there's demand worldwide. And I would say here that Pakistan must become partner in mineral security partnership, because I think that this group would be incomplete without the participation of Pakistan. And these 4 areas that I have identified, energy, agriculture, critical minerals, and IT, all these have been prioritized by the newly constituted Special Investment Facilitation Council for fast-track foreign investment. The SFIC, as one-stop shop, will guarantee speedy approvals, project development, and implementation. A raft of incentives is being offered to investors. To improve the investment climate, we have taken measures to strengthen the enforcement of intellectual property rights, streamline dispute settlement, ensure protection of foreign investment, give equitable dispensation in taxes to foreign investors, and provide tax exemptions. You asked another question. Mr. Rande, and that was, what do we want from the United States in the next 10 to 20 years? I'd say more investment in Pakistan and through Pakistan in the West Asian hemisphere. To achieve this goal, USAID, DFC, Exim Bank, and the Trade Development Authority can play a catalytic role. Restoration of general system of preferences by Congress will open doors for Pakistani investors. We are conscious that political stability and economic growth are symbiotic. Pakistan is the 5th largest democracy in the world. Pakistan's political stability will be delivered by its people and political parties. They will build an equilibrium that safeguards the supreme interests of Pakistan. Solutions cannot come from abroad. As a matter of fact, we have to sort it out. And I say, but at the same time, we respect this keen interest in Pakistan from abroad and also the wise counsel that is being given to us from time to time. Pakistan is key to South Asia's security. Right now, the United States is preoccupied with or constrained by its strategic priorities in our neighborhood, Europe and the Middle East. This limits its attention to Pakistan. Both sides ought to work to enhance the space for Pakistan-US cooperation. Our relations are a common good. It is in the strategic interest of both the United States and Pakistan to remain productively engaged. The United States government has cast off the Indo-centric approach towards Pakistan. Yet South Asia's security needs to be prioritized in its own right, not as a subset of the Indo-Pacific strategy. India and Pakistan, two nuclear powers, should re-establish communication channels for confidence building and strategic restraint. The issue of Jammu and Kashmir cannot be erased by realpolitik. For durable peace, regional peace, and security, it must be resolved through bilateral, trilateral, or multilateral statesmanship in accordance with the international law and United Nations resolutions. Pakistan should be a meeting point, not a battleground for the United States and China. Both countries are most welcome to invest in Pakistan in the areas of their respective competencies and competitiveness. We await American decisions on the restoration for Pakistan military sales and military financing and supply of critical equipment to keep the strategic balance in South Asia and fight the raging threat of terrorism. A recent United Nations Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring report has established that Al-Qaeda has been training Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan in 8 camps in Afghanistan to support their cross-border attacks in Pakistan. ISIS-K and TTP attacks are a potent threat to Pakistan, the United States, and its allies. We must have a coordinated strategy to eliminate it. I convey my gratitude to a majority of US think tanks and experts here in Washington, DC, and around the United States who have advocated for stronger US-Pakistan relations steered by diplomacy and focused on continuity of security cooperation, regional stabilization, and people-to-people exchanges. And thank you, Mr. Rande. And thank you, CSIS. The last paragraph. Pakistan and the United States, in the current phase, are developing a new steady rhythm for their relations, not buffeted by the cyclical patterns of highs and lows. In the past 2 years, we have made progress in creating a template for vigorous cooperation. We held more than a dozen high-level dialogues last year, and this year we are preparing for higher-level political, economic, trade, counterterrorism, and defense dialogues. Wait for the results. the future of Pakistan-US relations is bright. I thank you, Mr. Randi and CSIS.
Good. Okay. Why don't we sit over here? We'll go join me over there, Ambassador. Good. Okay, good. Have a seat. And either one is okay. Just turn on your microphone, your lavalier. It's technology's good. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so pleased, Ambassador Khan, that you're here. You know that I'm a friend of Pakistan, and I really appreciate Ambassador Rafel being here today to help us with this. Ambassador Rafel has been an affiliate of CSS for a long time, and everything I've learned about Pakistan, I've learned from Ambassador Rafel. So thanks for your friendship and partnership. Thank you, Ambassador Rafel. I'm really, and Ambassador Khan, you're always welcome at CSIS. As I told you earlier, I hope you consider it your second home in Washington. And I think you really represent the best of your generation in terms of public intellectuals who think about issues of foreign policy. So I know Pakistan sent one of its greatest minds when they asked you to take on this important mission to be here in Washington. So thanks for saying yes to that mission, and I think you've done a great job in your time so far here as ambassador. So thank you for saying yes to this ask of your country. So I want to just say that, as you know, for almost 10 years, I've been of the view that we need to broaden our lens at how we look at Pakistan. We've looked at Pakistan through a series of sort of distorted lenses over a long period of time. You referenced some of them. For a long time, we looked at Pakistan through the lens of U.S.-India relations. For another period of time, we looked at Pakistan through the lens of Afghanistan, which is 1/5 or 1/10 the size of Pakistan. And now, and from time to time, we've looked at our relationship with Pakistan through the lens of our relationship with the People's Republic of China. And these are all, you referenced that. And I also think, present company and the audience excluded, that I would argue that unfortunately, we've had much of our expertise on Pakistan has either been in the Pentagon or in the intelligence community. That's my view. Maybe I would say it's, and I'm a Republican. I like peace through strength, but I would argue that our relationship with Pakistan has been over-militarized on the U.S. side, at least, and that that's what we've sort of led with. Again, with present company excluded, we've made efforts to try to move us in a different direction. The pull of gravity has been towards that. And I wrote another article, as you know, Ambassador, maybe in 2020, with a lot of help from, whatever smart things I said, I heard from Ambassador Rafel, which was that, at some point we're going to have a different relationship with Afghanistan. We're going to have to get ready for a different relationship with Pakistan when that happens. And so we're still, I think, sorting that out. I think we're seeing sort of that play out, and I think you're here at a time when this is a critical moment for us to think about that. So I think for all the reasons you said, Pakistan is the 5th largest country in the world. Like, we don't look at Ethiopia through the lens of some other country. We don't look at Brazil through the lens of some other country. We don't look at Indonesia through the lens of some other country. So it's dumb of us to look at Pakistan through the lens of one of these 3 other countries. It's not in the American interest to do so. There's a temptation to do it, and there's a default to do it, but I think it's a mistake. So we have to work harder at that, and I think think tanks can play a role in that. I think I'd like to continue to do more here. I know there's a number of very able people in town who are working in that direction as well, and there are a lot of thoughtful people in Pakistan who are important interlocutors on that as well. But I think we all need to do a better job. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you here today, is because I feel strongly about this. So let me go back to the question that you answered a little bit earlier. I think there's a bigger question for us in Washington about how can we be, and I said this in 2015, like, we need to be a preferred partner of choice in much of the world. So I do think in Pakistan, like, how could we be, I want to go back to this meta question of how do we have a different kind of a relationship with your country? And you made some comments about that, and you talked about some very specific things I agree with and subscribe to, but could you, Pakistan has sent one of their, my theory, and when I say to people in my building here and elsewhere is I say, you know, places like Pakistan send their best people to represent their countries here. And we should really listen to ambassadors like Ambassador Khan because they've sent their best folks. And so Ambassador Khan, like, how could I just ask, I know this is like a think tank kind of a question, but how could we be a better friend or have a better relationship with you? I mean, there's going to be some things that are always going to be scratchy, and we always kind of gravitate towards that. And you've touched on some of them, but could you double click on this issue of, is having a sound issue or? Okay, Ambassador Khan, we're going to have to do this like talk show style. I'm not sure what's happening. Okay. Sorry, technology is great when it works. But okay, so Ambassador Khan, I think you heard the question, but how could we be a better, and you referenced some of this in your remarks, but can I ask you to elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I think for the next, if you said to me, what I want to spend the next 5 years on if I'm at a think tank is this question. So I'm doing an event in 3 weeks with other ambassadors from the Global South, because I believe this. We're going to ask the Panamanian ambassador. I'm going to have the Kazakh ambassador. I'm going to have the Zambian ambassador. I'm likely going to have the Mongolian ambassador. And I'm going to ask them that question. That's the conversation is that. So can I just start with it? Like, how could we be a better, you think about this all day long. Your whole embassy team thinks about this and probably is frustrated because you're probably telling us that and we're not listening. So I'm listening. And I'd like my colleagues to listen. Because how could we be a better partner to you?
Well, thank you so much. I think that despite the noisy debates in Washington or Islamabad, there's a lot of warmth between Pakistan and the United States. It dates back to the 1950s. It's in our subconscious that we helped each other in very difficult times. And that legacy survives. Whether it is the Pentagon or the State Department or Congress. So it hasn't vaporized. So we need not worry too much about it. Add to that the diaspora community. It's an abiding, strong link between Pakistan and the United States. They're investing in Pakistan and they are promoting trade and investment between the two countries. But people-to-people contacts or exchanges, they are the catalyst. Second, I would like to say, the first, we must clear the underbrush. And what's that? First is that we should liberate ourselves, our relationship, from the time zone of the war on terror. Because it keeps on stalking you all the time. All the lexicon, all the phraseology is traced back to that period. It was a difficult period for the United States, for Pakistan, and for Afghanistan, and for the countries of the region. So if we can walk past that and deal the issues today, that will be very helpful for Pakistan-US relationship. Second, I would like to say that I'll try to introduce some nuances. For instance, when we say that Pakistan should not be looked at through the China lens or India lens. In the same breath, I would say, but this doesn't mean that Pakistan is not a regional actor, that Pakistan is not key to peace and security in South Asia. So the United States should continue to engage Pakistan as an influential actor, as a consequential actor in South Asian politics and the peace and stability that impinges on US-led diplomacy there. And when it comes to China, I mean, our aspiration is that United States and China, the two biggest economies, the two big powers, they would sort out their problems through diplomacy, and they would never reach a point where they have to confront each other militarily, because such a war would be messy, not just for these two countries, but for the entire world. Finally, I would like to say that you have to realize the full potential of Pakistan. You look at the West Asian hemisphere to which I referred, Pakistan has the largest population there. And look at Central Asia, West Asia, or the Middle East, or North Africa, or East Africa. Pakistan has the biggest demographic cohorts in every field. Whether it is human capital,
or population, any of that.
I also referred to economic geography because we can be both a conduit and a destination for investments, US investments, and we can be a redistribution point for global supply chains there. It's already happening in an embryonic form, but we have to scale it up.
Yeah.
So I think that that's why the bulk of my presentation was on Pakistan-US economic partnership, which already has some strong sinews, but they have to develop further. Let me give you one instance. You know, your biggest tech giants, not tech giants, venture capitalists here in the United States from San Francisco, they're investing in Pakistan, and nobody knows about it. I mentioned that there are 80 American enterprises who are investing in Pakistan. Nobody knows about them. This is not common knowledge. Venture capitalists, Kleiner Perkins, Tiger Global, Crew, all these. This was not probably regulated by the governments of the two countries. This is global economy. This is which is making its own decisions. So there's a lot of potential. There's no room for pessimism, and that's where I should stop.
Okay. I think I agree. Let me just go back to my point about, like, if I think about Brazil, Pakistan's bigger in terms of population than Brazil. Think about Turkey, Pakistan's bigger than Turkey. Okay, Indonesia is a little bit bigger, but at some point, I think you all are going to surpass Indonesia. Is that right? Sometime in the next 10 years or so, Pakistan's going to be population-wise bigger than Indonesia. And so I think about those three countries, like we have scratchy relationships in some areas with Brazil. We have scratchy relationships in some areas with Turkey. And we have some scratchy areas in our relationship with Indonesia. So I've never fully understood, I understand why, but if we could get to something closer that kind of rhymed with one of those three with Pakistan, I think we would have a better footing for both of our countries. But for some reason, we haven't been able to kind of fully successfully get there because for a bunch of reasons that I think we know. But I think we need to continue to push towards that because I think it's in both of our interests. Let me just go back to this people-to-people thing. This is a little bit of you must have it probably off the top of your head. How many Pakistanis study here?
Well, the number is small, but it has increased by 17% last year.
That's good
there
news.
are more than 10,000 students studying here, but
Okay.
this is not a good statistic because I'll tell you that there are 30,000 Pakistani students studying in China right now.
So that's the statistic we should all take away. There's 10,000 here, and there's 30,000 in China. So when I go to a developing country, I ask two questions now. I ask, where do your promising students study? And if more of them are studying in Tsinghua than they are in Towson State, we got a problem. So we got to wake up and smell the coffee on that. I think that's an issue. The second question I ask people is where do you buy your defense assets from? Now, historically, you used to buy your defense assets from the United States. Where are you buying, Ambassador, more of your defense assets from these days?
Well, again, the bulk of our defense supplies come from China. And
that didn't used to be that way, right?
Yeah, but that we have another problem. As a matter of fact, I mean, the supply chain for defense articles was suspended or terminated. Not terminated, it was suspended in 2018. And that has affected our relationship. We've been pleading with the Pentagon and the State Department and Congress to restore FMF and FMS. And because we still have a considerable percentage of our defense platforms which are of U.S. origin, F-16s and
You'd like to kind of renew some of those,
C-130s and helicopters. And so what we need right now is sustainment. I mean, there should be approvals, fast-tracked approvals for their sustainment. And we're ready to buy new platforms. The United States should be a predictable supplier of our defense equipment.
So Ambassador, please forgive, I 100% agree with that. So my wife is from Argentina. So I have an honorary PhD in Argentina. I know a lot about Argentina. So as you know, Ambassador, Pakistan was willing to sell secondhand Chinese jets to Argentina. And so the United States said, whoa, 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 don't buy the secondhand jets, the secondhand Chinese jets from Pakistan for Argentina. Will ultimately, at the end of the day, there was a decision made that there was a preference for like, no, we'll find a way. And when they got Denmark to sell secondhand F-16s. So my point is that there are other providers of defense assets in the world. There's other providers of education opportunities in the world. And it's a different world than 20 years ago. It's a different world than 25 years ago. So the whole thing of like, well, I'm going to cut off your F-16s, that might have worked. That was a very 1995 kind of a playbook kind of a thing. I'm not quite sure it works in 2024, or it doesn't work in the same way, because a country like Pakistan say, okay, that's fine. I'm going to triple down on buying assets from China because I can do that. And maybe they're not the Chevrolet, they're not the Cadillac defense stuff, but they're the Buick, and they're pretty good. So I'm not sure that's necessarily in our interest. So I think we have to think hard about, do we want to have, it's probably in our interest to probably revisit it. I suspect, Ambassador, some of it was we were angry with your country about Afghanistan, and probably that was part of it. I'm sure there was some other reason. My friends in the Defense Department will tell us, and I'm sure it's there. I'm sure if they were here, I'd say, yeah, I can understand why we were upset about that. But I think we're going to have to think differently, because your country, like a lot of other countries in the Global South, have options today that you didn't have. Is that right, Ambassador?
Let me say that we're grateful to the Biden administration because in 2022, they did approve $450 million for sustainment of F-16 aircraft. This was good, but since then we've been waiting for sustainment too. But what I want to say is that it's not that there's a system-wide agreement to block defense supplies to Pakistan. We have to sort of mobilize bipartisan support for scaling up relationship with Pakistan overall in all realms, trade and investment and defense cooperation.
So our U.S. Ambassador to China says that people-to-people ties between the People's Republic of China and the United States is the ballast in our relationship between the U.S. and the People's Republic of China. I would argue our people-to-people ties with Pakistan is also our ballast. I think COVID got in the way of that. I've always thought, I gave a speech in Pakistan several years ago, and we may have connected then as well, maybe in 2019 at the Margala Dialogues, where, Jordan has something like 3 or 4 times the amount of tourists that Pakistan has, and Pakistan's got a lot to offer in terms of natural beauty, in terms of cultural sites. So there's no reason that Pakistan shouldn't have as many tourists as Jordan has, for example, right, at some point. So that's also another area, right?
Let me add a few things. One is
it's like a talk show. Sorry about that, Ambassador.
Well, very few people know that there are 50,000 Americans working in Pakistan.
Really?
I mean, despite the travel advisory. And this is an official figure that has been cited by the State Department. It's not my figure. Second, I would like to say that Pakistanis are the largest recipients of Fulbright scholarships. On the brighter side, I would also say that we have an alumni network of more than 37,000.
Really?
So yes.
Who studied in the U.S. and gone back?
Either they went back or some of them returned to the United States. But I think, and we have strong linkages from the West Coast to East Coast. Wherever you go, you find these Pakistanis in very eminent positions, and they're contributing to Pakistan-US relations. So our people-to-people track is quite strong. And United States has been emulated in many fields, whether it is agriculture. And now agriculture is closely linked to people. You started off this Green Revolution in the 1960s. It has been revived by the current administration here. Now we have an initiative called United States-Pakistan Green Alliance. We're focusing on hybrid seeds, climate-smart agriculture. So this is fantastic. This is fantastic.
Ambassador, could Pakistan be another Ukraine in terms of its agricultural productivity?
In a sense, we already are. We should be self-sufficient in wheat, rice, cotton.
Yeah.
But there are some market distortions, and I don't want to go into them. But Pakistan is a granary for one of the granaries of South Asia, and we can.
I don't think that's fully appreciated here.
Not, and we are in the top 10 category when it comes to the production of rice, wheat, and cotton.
So, Ambassador, please forgive me. I'm going to ask sort of a prosaic question here, but if I want to make a direct flight from the East Coast of the United States, is there a direct flight anywhere in the continental United States to Pakistan today?
It used to be in the past, not from
COVID.
You want to fly out of the East
I know
Coast or
this
the
is
West
like
Coast?
either one, but I know
All
this
right.
is like a silly question, but
But
I'm actually quite
West
serious.
Coast
Like,
would be
my
too far.
deepest
West-
thought. So my deepest thought, I looked at U.S.-Kazakh relations. We did like 3 or 4 sessions and looked at different things. Then my deepest thought was if we could just have a direct flight between Astana or Almaty and I don't know, New York, like that would do a heck of a lot of good. If we could have, so if, we need to figure out if there isn't a direct flight, whether it's Pakistan International Airlines or United or something, I'm sure it's on your mind. I'm sure your embassy's thinking about this. If we could just figure that out, that would be a wonderful thing. I know this sounds silly, and boy, that sounds like an overly simplistic thing, but I'm telling you, I think that would really help. Do we have that now?
There's bad news and good news.
Okay.
And the bad news is that for several years we haven't had this direct flight.
Yeah.
The good news is that the Department of Transportation here and the Aviation Division in Pakistan, they have come to an understanding to restart direct flights. Now, in the recent past, top airlines from Europe, United Kingdom, Europe proper, from Far East,
Yeah.
they've been flying into Pakistan, direct flights.
Oh, yeah.
But I keep hoping, and I think it would materialize soon, that PIA would be able to fly. We have
Yeah.
some problems with privatizing PIA, so at the moment. But I think that there is an agreement in principle to restart direct flights.
So my hope is in calendar year 2024, Ambassador, I can get a flight out of New York or DC to whether it's Islamabad or some place, one of the big cities in Pakistan. I think that would be an amazing thing, and so I will keep that in the back of my mind as I'm talking to Biden administration officials, saying this is something. If we wanted to improve our relationship with Pakistan, this is something we ought to operationalize on our side. So if it's on I suspect it's probably our problem, not your problem, but I will raise this as I have opportunities to do so, because it strikes me as this would be really important.
Sure, definitely. Definitely.
All right, let me just press on one more thing, and I want to give a chance for some of the smart folks in the room to ask you a question or two. So can we just come back to this mining and minerals thing? Ambassador Rafel knows I'm obsessed about this, that if you want to have a carbon transition, we're going to have to love mining and minerals to the tips of our toes. I'm reading a new book, The War Below, which is about mining and minerals. Like, I can't put this book down. But it strikes me that we're going to need to do 2 things. We're going to have to really understand the mining and mineral potential of Pakistan, and then we're going to have to figure out a way, like other countries, whether it's Indonesia or Argentina or countries in Africa, to get the same kind of a deal that the 10 or 20 or so countries that have free trade agreements, like they're treating metals and basic materials as if it's domestic content if we have a free trade agreement. So one thing is to like figure out how to do more and better and safely and appropriately the mining in Pakistan, but then having it, that you're like a preferred source. So we're going to also have to kind of revisit sort of whatever our trading relationship is with you as part of that. Now, maybe it's not a free trade agreement, but maybe there's like a special carve out for mining and minerals. But we're going to have to understand that in a different way. So I'm sure these have crossed your mind, Ambassador.
Well, I referred to them in my opening statement, and I want to reiterate one point, that Pakistan should become part of mineral security partnership.
100%.
And because we belong to that family. And second, we have prioritized investment in this sector, extractive industry as a whole. All the minerals, key minerals, I mentioned some of the minerals which are, and there's a demand for lithium and rare earths all around the world, copper in particular. And we have a mine which is called Barrick Gold has invested in Reko Dick, and it's a $7 billion project. And I think that Barrick Gold has invested in it, and the Gulf countries are interested in it. So we are also making a transformation from fossil fuel-based
Sure.
energy mix to alternate energy. We're investing heavily in solar and wind power generation. The United States has invested in wind power. Earlier, it helped us with hydropower generation, Tarbela and Mangla, that Ambassador Rafel referred to. So we're grateful to the United States for that. But what we need is investors right now. And I referred to the SIFC, the Special Investment Facilitation Council. Its purpose right now is to fast track approvals, because there used to be complaints about delayed processes and multiple layers of approval, but we want to fast track that. And the United States can be a great partner in this endeavor.
Okay. Ambassador, let me give you a chance to reiterate for our audience, especially online. So we're doing this on February the 20th or the 21st, and there's lots of stuff in the news. Do you want to could you just reiterate that, you'd said earlier about you're optimistic about the future of Pakistan. Could you just share give it just kind of a parting message for this audience? And we'll take Q&A, but I want to give you a chance to just kind of reiterate kind of the message you want to leave for this audience.
Well, as a matter of fact, I remain confident as a citizen and as the representative of Pakistan in the United States, that Pakistan has a bright future, and this is because of its population and because of its rich resources. And when you have that combination, that interface, we will succeed. We are bound to succeed. Other countries have succeeded. You are taking the example of Indonesia and many European countries. There are many emerging countries. Pakistan is an emerging country, an emerging economy. It used to be a frontier market, but now it is transitioning to an emerging economy with strength. Why do people perceive Pakistan as not so developed? Is because of our dysfunctional taxation system, and our income is not fully reflected. Because of this distortion, we are not perceived to be what we are. As a matter of fact, I refer to 42% in the middle class. That would be about 80 to 90 million people who are in the proper middle class. 4% are upper middle class, and 36%, I think 38% are middle class. Then, of course, there would be in the lower middle class, or I also refer to elimination of poverty. So what I want to say, that demographic cohorts matter. And it's a modern country, as Ambassador Rafel mentioned, that we are an English-speaking nation. We communicate with the rest of the world. We have all the mechanisms in place, and we are poised to take off. So that's where my confidence stems from.
Well, I share it, Ambassador, and it's one of the reasons I keep working with Ambassador Rafel on this topic, because I share your view, and I think that the perception is a lagging indicator with much of the reality that you've just described and the potential of the country. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yes, sir,
of course.
Very quickly. What I want to say, that I have mentioned it on many other occasions, that during the war on terror, we suffered from reputational damage, and it persists somehow.
Yes.
We have to address that. Pakistan is not a turbulent place. You go to Pakistan, I'll invite everybody to go to Pakistan. We in fact invite congressmen and senators to go to Pakistan. When they go to Pakistan, visit Pakistan, come back, their perceptions are totally transformed. Similarly, business persons, when they go there, they're ready to do business. And so I would say that to change perceptions, we need to accelerate the pace of people-to-people exchanges. We also need to sort of make a conscious effort to change these perceptions, because to change perceptions, you need to know each other. You need to sort of have a kind of relationship.
Yeah.
You should inject trust in your relationship. So I think some conscious efforts should be made to correct this this misperception about Pakistan.
I think like China in this way, in the People's Republic of China, like I think COVID got in the way of some of this. I'm thinking like when was the last time I was in Pakistan? It was 2019, and I'm just thinking at this audience of folks who are travelers. I'm betting many of them haven't been to Pakistan since COVID. So I'd encourage those who are friends of Pakistan to make 2024 the year to visit Pakistan.
I think that's a great invitation, and
Yeah.
I extend this invitation to you as well.
Thank you, Ambassador. All right, let me take one question from the audience. Let's take this gentleman here. Name and
Okay, you're going to hold it. Stanley Cover. In 1979, a mob assaulted our embassy in Islamabad following a false report that we were behind an attack on the mosque in Mecca. I'm looking at what's going on in the Middle East and Gaza, our own confrontation with Yemen. And I wonder, could that have an effect on the domestic situation in Pakistan? I'm less concerned about the government-to-government relations between Pakistan and the U.S., but the effect this would have on domestic political opinion in Pakistan.
good. Thank
Is your
you.
question whether the situation in the Palestine or the Gaza would affect relations between Pakistan and the United States?
Yeah, that's how I took it.
All right. Now, let me tell you that we, right now, candidly speaking, we are preoccupied with the result of our elections. And we're preoccupied with the formation of the new government. And that's a priority. And so I don't think that this has come up between the two sides. Of course, I mean, the United States has stated its position. We've stated our position on Palestine and the prosecution of war there. So that's true. But at the same time, I think our position on Palestine remains principled, anchored in the United Nations Security Council resolutions. But right now, we have different sets of priorities in Pakistan. And I think it should not directly or indirectly affect our relations with the United States.
Okay. All right. I'm cognizant of the time, Ambassador. I really appreciate you coming today. I hope to get to Pakistan this year. I really appreciate you coming to visit CSIS. As I said at the beginning, I want you to consider CSIS your second home in Washington. I'm really grateful to the folks who came out today. I want to appreciate and thank my friend and colleague, Ambassador Rafel, for being here. And please join me in thanking the Pakistan ambassador to the U.S.